Hello and welcome to an overview of Stage 1 speaking. We're going to start with a general overview of the two tasks that you're going to be looking at. We'll then move into a breakdown of what the tasks look like, a deeper description. We'll go over how it is that you'll be assessed throughout the speaking stages. And finally, we'll watch an example so that you can truly understand what it is that you'll be doing. Now, let's take a closer look at the two tasks in this stage. So task 1 in Stage 1 speaking we call conversation. The next one is task 2. This is an extended speaking where you describe something. You'll then be asked follow-up questions on your presentation. You can see that the total time for this stage is 10 minutes. Now let's take a closer look at the breakdown of how this stage works. The candidate joins the Zoom meeting and the assessor checks the connection. The assessor begins the recording by introducing themselves. As you can see, the two tasks of Stage 1 are conversation and extended speaking. Let's take a closer look at a description of these two tasks. Once the recording has begun, the examiner introduces themselves, and the candidate is asked to show their passport and say their full name at the same time. Then, immediately, Task 1 will begin. It begins by the assessor asking a general question to the candidate. These are questions on familiar topics that you will be able to answer easily. This stage of the task is designed to make you feel comfortable. So don't worry if you give short answers or find it difficult to answer immediately. Just act naturally. Moving on to task 2, the assessor will ask you to describe something. You'll have 1 minute to plan your extended speaking. This is a presentation where you speak for approximately a minute and describe what you've been asked by the assessor. The assessor will then ask follow-up questions. So Stage 1 speaking begins with Task 1, the conversation, where you answer questions on general topics that you're familiar with. You're then asked to present a description for a little over a minute, which is followed up by a short discussion based on what you said in your presentation. Although this looks like 3 topics, the last 2 really are the same task because they're on the same topic. Now, let's take a closer look at how you'll be assessed during this. When assessing your speaking, we'll be looking for range, accuracy, fluency, interaction, and coherence. The range is how much vocabulary, how much grammar you can use while speaking. Now, although we're looking for the amount of grammar and vocabulary, we don't want you to speak too much. It's about using the right vocabulary, the right grammar at the right time. In terms of accuracy, it's how well are you using that vocabulary and grammar. You may well know the present perfect tense, but if you don't form it correctly in speech, that will be a point against you in accuracy. Fluency is how well you hold yourself while speaking, the music of your voice, how well you're able to produce without long pauses, and accurate chunks as well. Interaction is how well you deal with the assessor. So you may not know exactly what to say straight away. You may have to think a little bit about your answer. If you just silently stare at the camera, that's going to give you a very poor grade in interaction. Whereas if you say, that's an interesting question, I hadn't thought about that before, you're going to get a better mark because you're showing that you're able to communicate to the assessor that you need a bit of thinking time there. Finally, coherence is how well everything sticks together. So making sure that you're using linking words, that you're not just saying individual words, but complete utterances, which are the spoken form of sentences. Now, this seems like a lot for you to take on board, but don't worry. Throughout this course, you'll be looking more deeply at how it is that you can get a good score in this stage. Before you go on to the other parts of this course, though, we'd like to show you an example. So have a look here. We're going to show you a clip now of Speaking Stage 1, Task 1.
This isn't a full clip, this is just a short element so you can get an idea of what it's like. This is Daniel. Let's have a look at how he does.
Family things.
Okay, and to change the topic slightly, how's the weather today?
The weather is wonderful. The sun's shining because of the coronavirus. The air is really crisp, very clear. Just lovely. Would probably prefer to be outside today.
And what's your favourite kind of weather?
My favourite kind of weather would be probably a sunny day, but not too sunny, because I don't like the sun glaring. Also, probably not too windy, but with a slight breeze, because otherwise it gets too hot. Yeah, I think that's probably my ideal weather.
Yeah. Does, in your country, does the weather affect people's lives?
I would say it probably does, because in Hong Kong it's very humid and very hot. It gets very hot in the summer. So once you kind of step outside, after 5 seconds, you start sweating a lot. So I'd say it does affect people's lives. All the shopping malls have really strong air conditioning as well. So I assume people get quite ill during the summer, because you're going from hot to cold and then back to hot.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was an example of Task 1 conversation. Now let's take a closer look at the extended speaking part. We'll first look at the assessor asking the question.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. In this part of the assessment, you'll be asked to speak on your own on a topic for about a minute. Then you'll be asked some follow-up questions on the topic. You have 1 minute to make some notes if you wish. This is your topic. Please describe someone you respect. You should say who the person is, what this person is like, and explain why you respect this person. I'm going to repeat that so you can hear it again. Please describe someone you respect.
You should say who the person is, what this person is like, and explain why you respect this person. Your 1 minute planning time starts now.
Daniel now has 1 minute planning. I'm not going to show you him planning for 1 minute because it's silence. So let's move straight on and hear his answer.
Thank you. Please describe someone you respect. You should say who the person is, what this person is like, and explain why you respect this person. Please speak clearly so that I can hear you, and don't worry if I interrupt you. Okay?
So the person I respect is my mum's sister, Yvette. And the reason why I respect her is because she's dedicated her entire life to taking care of my grandparents. And she's also been a very hard worker all her life to achieve her own personal dreams. This is especially the case because in Hong Kong, not a lot of people follow their dreams. They kind of just listen to what everyone else says, kind of being the doctor or a lawyer, just because it's supposed to be bring in good money and their parents would be very proud of that. But instead, my aunt was a tap dancer. and she worked very hard to open the first ever dance studio in Hong Kong.
And after that, she also wanted to perform. She wanted to have a solo performance. So she arranged and she organized and she practiced, and finally was able to actually accomplish that.
And I mentioned before as well that she takes care of my grandparents.
Having given his presentation, Daniel's now going to be asked follow-up questions on the topic. Let's take a look at that.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask you some follow-up questions on the same topic. Which type of people are respected most in your country?
Type of people are respected most in my country? I would say, actually, the people who are respected the most aren't like my aunt, aren't people who follow their dreams, but rather people who kind of follow the path that was already paved. They kind of are the doctors, the lawyers, people who are who might find it quite difficult to actually get to that place, to get that job. Those are the type of people who I think are respected the most.
What happens when young people lack good role models?
I would say they could, they probably get led into kind of I'd just say bad path. They might start doing drugs. They might start doing engaging in criminal activity. They probably begin to lack a respect for other people as well. So they kind of become selfish and think about themselves. They don't think about anyone else. And that probably isn't very good for the community, to foster this kind of communal spirit. They probably lack that kind of spirit.
Okay. Do you agree that you should never meet your heroes?
I would say no. I'd say meet your hero, but also make sure you don't meet them for a prolonged moment of time. I'd say probably an hour is enough for that magic to kind of last. I do think the magic is lost after a while.
Okay, so today we've seen an overview of Stage 1 speaking. We've looked at both tasks, what it is that you'll have to do, and how you'll be assessed. We also saw an example of each of the stages in action. Of course, when you're doing these tasks, they will last slightly longer, as we just watched short clips today. Later on in the course, we'll be seeing in more depth how it is that you should take on these tasks and how to get a good grade. So don't worry, if you want more information, that will be coming up.